And right now, I want to invite our next speaker, Choukhno, PCC coach, head of the Novaterra project in Russia and the CIS. Julia.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you, colleagues. It's a great pleasure to join you here. I have been with you all the day from very beginning, from Kathleen's first speech here, and I'm happy that we're raising such issues as cross-cultural coaching and how to be a good coach in the new context. I have prepared some presentations, so I'll share my screen, just a second. So, as you can see, probably some of you know me, some of you not. Just brief introduction. I'm coach in a cross-cultural context, and actually I work with several international organizations. I'm representing Novaterra Coach Training and Corporate Development, which is Brussels-based coaching school and company, and I represent it in Russia and former Soviet Union, except Baltic countries that are part of European Union now. And I also work with the Center for Creative Leadership, which is a US-based organization with Rosinsky and Company, with Wings that are based in Brussels, and with Management Futures that is based in the UK. So I'm building partnership relationship with several providers, and it's part of my strategy to work internationally. Before we step into this conversation, and I would like to invite you to have a conversation, not just speaking to you, I would like to ask you one question. What are the most interesting and useful ideas you have got from this conference so far? In fact, I had a other question, and Maxime just started with it, asking about what are your reasons to coach in English, and I wanted to ask you what are your reasons to coach in English and coach across the cultures. And I saw that many of you see it as a developmental thing, as expanding your boundaries, that is coming out of your routine and doing something new things, and that is something interesting. I'll be happy if you answer here, if you share what things. Oh, I see. Aiste from Vilnius. Nice to see and hear you as well. While I'm talking, I will appreciate if you share this, because for me this day it was full of interesting ideas and full of things that I wanted to share. And I just wrote to Dmitry Hakhlov that I have changed my presentation at least 50%, and I have changed some slides to share what was not said while you were listening to all the speakers here. I see that everyone can do it. Context doesn't matter, culture matters. To balance between fears and curiosity, clean questions and clean modeling. Wow. And main ideas about coaching presence and silence. Excellent. Surprisingly to me, I've got the brightest insight during those 2 days. I don't use all my talents so far. Wow, wonderful. There were lots of things, and somebody said, "Oh, Evgenia, my English is poor." Well, that's interesting. And what I wanted to start here, and why I'm asking about what's interesting here for you, is your focus. And I want to start with sharing one insight I got from David Clutterbuck. He's one of the top coaches in coaching teams. And he said that there was a research behind this. There are 4 levels of professionalism in coaching. And the first level, where most of coaches are sitting, it's doing coaching to people. What does it mean? It means that when we coach, when we enter this as a practice or as a profession, we start thinking, oh, how I can do something to this person. And it means that we are in our culture, and it's normal for the culture to think of other people as objects. How I can get this person doing this or that. This is manipulative approach. Manipulated with a non-judgmental sense. Manipulating means I do something to change his behavior or his attitude or whatever. And many people do coaching. They are based on model. They take GROW model, ACE first model, Mavida model, whatever model, and they're doing coaching. The level upper is process-based. And this is where actually our competences, ICF core competences, take us to. It's to understand the whole process of coaching and start with setting the environment, setting the objectives, being present, and then asking questions and getting feedback through powerful questioning, getting the awareness of the client, and then leading to actions. And here it is doing coaching with people. The idea of partnering comes. So it is not anymore important that the coach, how the coach feels. Coach takes care of himself and he or she does it well. Now he can give his or her attention to the partner, to the client. And David and his colleagues' research shows that about 20% of the coaches switch to the third level and further, and it is philosophy based. And the major difference is being a coach instead of doing coaching. And this is a major shift. This shift is that you cannot be coach in the beginning of the session and in the end of the session switch off your coaching state and move into some other state. You are a coach. You act as a coach. It means that you integrate the culture of coaching into you. And it means that this is caring. Coaching is caring about the other person while you can take good care about yourself. And the 4th level of that, and I really appreciate how David shaped that, it's holding the client while the client is in the dialogue he needs to have with himself. Just get it into mind. We are holding the client, and client has the dialogue with himself. And if you look into this particular definition of good coaching, you will understand that you do not actually need the language that much to hold the client, because you're working with different tools. You're working with your complete presence, with your complete attention, and with your ability to create this space where the client can talk to himself. And he definitely understands his language. And Kathleen Walker has given excellent examples how clients understand their inner world when they focus their attention into the invisible architecture of their world. So why do you think I have shared that with you? I'll be happy if you share some ideas, because I want to invite you to think to identify ourselves in which models we are, to have a direction where to grow as a coach. It's very interesting to identify ourselves. That's to switch in attention. That's to switch in attention, because when we are thinking of whether our language is good or bad, we are thinking about ourselves. We are not caring about the client. We are caring about how comfortable we feel. Do we understand what client says? But in the fourth level, we care about, did client understood what he said? Yes, here, see, the less we do and the more we are being, the more professionals we are, to be okay with the transformational silence. Exactly, exactly. And yes, we all need to aim at a being systematic level where the language doesn't matter that much, but other things matter. Exactly. We can again remind about experiments the psychologist said that the intonation and the body language says more than the words. And my experience as a linguist, I was studying linguistics in the university, and English as a translator and interpreter. And by the way, there is a difference. When we are saying something, words, it's just the reference point. But how we say that matters. Because I can say hello, and I can say hello. And you will get different impressions, and you will understand. And it was wonderful examples in different languages with one of the speakers today, the Bulgarian lady. She has spoken in different languages, and her body was talking. And it's much more important, what is your posture, what is your breathing. And if you find it comfortable to breathe well and to feel comfortable with your language, which is imperfect, it will never be perfect by one reason. Because, you know, all probably if you study statistics, you know Gauss curve. When we're sharing some words, of course, there will be some meanings that are common, but it will be tales that neither probably you never thought of or your client never thought of, and this is his core meaning of this word. You will never know. That's why working with metaphors and listening to the client's word and reflecting client words, it's so powerful. But it's quite easy. If you are listening well, you're listening to the energy level, you're listening to your presence, you're listening to the presence of the client, then words come easy. And another thing I wanted to share is when you're starting coaching in foreign language or coaching with a new audience, there were quite a lot of questions here, how to start with a new audience. Do we need a niche or something else? We start with a purpose. We start asking what I'm doing this for, or what I want it for. And we ask several questions in a chain to find the sources of energy and drive. Because if we think, okay, English is a good audience, people earn more in the Western countries, probably if I coach them, I can earn more per session. Then where is your interest? Only money? And what do you need this money for? And probably there are some other ways to earn money and not through coaching. And all your unconscious will be looking for other options, and you will be doing something else instead of studying language. we need this purpose to start our inner game. And here I'm proud with this photograph. It's with Timothy Galway and Sir John Whitmore when they were in Moscow. It was one of the moments when I really thought that language is essential, but not as essential as being with your client, being together and feeling and paying attention to what you actually observe. And usually you do not need so many words to describe what you observe. You can easily imitate what you see in this session. You can imitate the posture, you can imitate the way client looks at you, and this is fun. And this is very congruent. When you are congruent with yourself, knowing your purpose and knowing your reasons, it gives you very congruent attitude. And also what helps being congruent, it's a clear field of beliefs you have when you communicate. And you can do this simple exercise. You can write your beliefs about your ability to communicate in general and ability to communicate in English. And you will see some matches and you will see some gaps. And then you get the main belief, but do not catch the first one. Just have the field of beliefs, and you can take the stickers and put them on the wall and see what is the main belief that constitutes my ability to communicate in English or to communicate in general. You will find some interesting matches there. Another thing I wanted to share, and this is something that I got inspiration from transactional analysis. I don't know how many of you have ideas about transactional analysis. Please make note in the chat if you have heard about time structuration in yes, I see some people know. If you do not know, please put minus. When we are, okay, I see some people do not know. When we are in a communication act, first we are detached. We are not in a contact, and energy flow is zero or minimal. We just looked at each other. And when we looked at each other, if we want to get into contact, we use some ritual. And this ritual is important. The energy you enter with this into this ritual and the words you are using in this ritual, it's better to have them culturally fit. So if you're communicating with the clients in the international context, it's better that you know how it's set, how it's comfortable, what is the culture to say. In my experience, I had one bad experience, you can say. I was working with a company where there was Japanese and British management together with Russian management. And I was supposed to have some team building, team coaching for them. And my failure was that I underestimated the importance of rituals with the Japanese people. And this particular curve, this particular flow of energy, I was too fast with them. And it was some sort of, when I analyzed backwards, it was some shock for them in a certain way, because I was getting into their intimacy zone. And while we are doing this ritual and then small talk, asking, oh, how are you? How is life? How is your work? How is your family? Whatever, what is appropriate. Then we smell each other. And actually we make a decision, unconsciously, we make a decision. can I trust and how far can I trust? And when we get into acting, then there are two roads. Either to psychological games, and there are lots of them. You can read Eric Berne or any transactional analysis specialist, or we go to intimacy, and being in intimacy, it's a risk. And to get into this intimacy, where you can be imperfect, where you can make mistakes, and what is mistake is quite a big lecture or discussion we can have. The major thing is your body, and your body need to be very well trained to be in this intimacy state. And that's why it's very important, and I say that to all our coaching students in Novaterra. I say it's crucial and essential that you have your experience of being a client first. Before you start coaching, have your real serious experience of being coached, of being with a person who has trust and who can be intimate to himself or herself, and have this feeling of contact with yourself. Then your body will give you immediately the idea whether you are playing games or your client is inviting you to play the games, and how to come out of this game. And by the way, when we get into this energy flow, it gets bigger and then we come out. So you need to know the whole process and not to just jump out of the conversation, but to reduce this process. And the less you know the client, the more this ritual, small talk, and some action, acting is important. So you set the frame through the contracting, through discussing the confidentiality, or setting up the environment, or asking the client, okay, did you have experience of coaching? You give some explanation. It works as a small talk in this case. And when you understand this curve, then it gives you flexibility. And when your body is well trained to recognize your state of intimacy with yourself, then you can be intimate with the client. And one more thing I wanted to share is this equation of trust. Have you seen this formula, or have you used this formula? Please make notes in chat. I see that many people have not seen that. Well, I find it, I find it extremely useful, and I use it in several corporate projects. How we decide that somebody is trustworthy. We'll look at this person and we'll listen to how this person talks, how this person interacts, how he or she looks, and this is credibility. If he or she is confident or not, if he or she is smiling and accepting and tolerant, or aggressive and looking like this. Reliability is another thing. It's about our history, and it's about our experience with a person. Can I rely on him or her? Whether he comes in time, whether he says, okay, I'll send you email, and send this email or not. And the third thing in the top row is intimacy. Intimacy, it's about this connection to themselves. It's about also ability to be vulnerable. and its ability to share certain things that might look sensitive in the culture, and how easy person gets into this intimacy. And this relates to our family experience and life experience, and in fact, background is security with ourselves, how secure we feel being ourselves. And in the bottom part, there is a self-orientation. We immediately feel that person is putting the blanket on himself or herself when they are caring about their own interest and do not care about yourself. And how we know that? We know that through, again, through the body. We know if the person returns us our words, we feel, ah, we are listened. He's focused on me. He's not focused on his ideas. And this is one of the reasons why, again, giving client back his words, being attentive to the intonations, and being short, not dropping your own things, too much of your own things into the conversation, it helps to feel that you're not self-oriented. You're clarifying things, but not for yourself. You're clarifying things for your client. And that makes coaching very powerful. And if you want this, you can just search. There is information about this trust formula. You can find it in the internet. And I see that our time is coming to the end. Few things to add for the learning. On the way, how we study language. You know, to obtain a new knowledge, you need to invest some time. And the quality of this time depends on several things. First of all, if you feel that you are imperfect, and you are imperfect, we are all imperfect. First, welcome your imperfection. And imperfection, it's just the way. You can be in the beginning of this way, or you can be in the middle of this way. This is just your perception. You never know how long the way is, because things are changing. So when we are welcoming this imperfection, then we can ask ourselves the question, what is interesting about this? And out of this interesting, choose the action that would give you the opportunity. For example, I know people who have learned language through watching the movies, or through dancing with people in another language, or going to the club of foreigners. Nowadays, it's very easy to find the partners for speaking. You can easily find English-speaking people in the internet, through the clubs, some sort of chats, whatever, and get feedback. Sometimes what I see when people say, oh, I have poor English, I said, how you decide? Oh, I do not understand all the words. Okay, but what is the percentage of words you do not understand? I do not understand 10%. Fine. What you do to understand these 10% of words? I do not do anything. Okay, but what can you do to understand? And you can put your words on your wall, or you can make notes, or you can visualize these words. So what is interesting for you to do with these words? And then we switch some creative process. We create some synesthesia. I know that people sometimes they write the words on their hand, and it is more powerful than to write the words on the paper, for example. And for other people, paper is more powerful. So you get feedback from yourself and you get feedback from other people, and trust them, because sometimes people really get trapped into their perfectionist model. I can say that I'm studying English since I was at school, and my first teacher was making me scared. And it took me time to unblock my language, because I was reading, I was understanding, but when I was speaking, I was, and I was more concerned about the right order of words rather than contacting my interlocutors. And when I switched my mind, and it was helpful that I got people who were saying, "Come on, your English is good. Why are you so slow? Just let yourself experiment. Why not?" And it helped a lot. And the keys to success in speaking good English or good any other language, you invest some time and do it regularly, because our mind likes regularity, and it likes when we do something, we have fun. And to have fun, you need some support. You need a circle of people who will give you inspiration sometimes when you fizzle out, and somebody who will be happy to share their insights, or to help you study or learn or get deep or get light. And you can, for example, get your peer coaches. That's what I do every year. I participate at least in 2 coaching rounds for peer coaching, ICF peer coaching. And I got international coaches as my coaches, and I coach people from different cultures. And I enjoy that, because it gives practice in English, and it also gives insights in how I think when I switch the language. So that's it. I think this is the end, and I can stop share and answer your questions.
Thank you so much, Julia. It was really very informative and inspirative presentation. And we have a question from Zanara. Dear Julia, thanks for sharing the 4 levels. Are there any tips, recommendations, exercises, practice to get to the next level, for example, to the 3rd one?
Well, first of all, observe yourself. Observe yourself and notice when you're talking to your family, or when you're talking to your colleagues, what is percentage of your listening and talking? It's very simple. Check your quality of your listening first. Check the quality of your focus. Multitasking, that's my own observation, multitasking is very dangerous. If you're multitasking while you're communicating with other people, it means that you are not in a focus. You do not present. You are not present. You are disrupted. And this is mindfulness, and sometimes it's meditation. But to be honest, this is not a simple way. It's rather the practice, and you need to have some role models. You need to have some people who can give you quality feedback on how you work. It's the best way is to have supervision, and to have your peer group, your colleagues, to have intervision, to get feedback on how you communicate outside the coaching conversations as well, and compare how close you are to your best coaching comparing being the client when you are at the top of the flow, being the client. Compare your state, remember that state, and compare that state and use it as a some ethanol thing for your being.
You said very interesting words about multitasking and doing several things at once. So if we used to do that, how can we stop that? What should be the first steps to stop this multitasking?
First, notice. And you can use the, you can Google the Pomodoro technique. Tomato, it's about 15 minutes. You set up your clock for 15 minutes and you're doing something for 15 minutes with full concentration. Even 10 minutes, even 5 minutes, but with full concentration, because multitasking is a trap, because we lose energy in switching through different things. We are not multitasking. Okay, we can control its physiology. For example, we can do driving and talking. But why we can do that? It's because our, I don't know some words in English, for example, базальные ядра. It's a brain structures that make our actions automatic. That's why we can walk sometimes with our eyes closed. It's something that we have already trained. We can do two things when we are doing some mechanical thing, but in coaching, we are in the area of unknown. And if we are distracted, even if we are making notes, if we are not trained to make notes without looking at our notes, we are coming out of our attention. It means that we are losing something. We are not in the contact with the body of our client. So just practice.
Thank you so much. There are a lot of thankful words for you in our chart. It was very interesting. Thanks a lot. Very useful. Thank you so much for this presentation.
It's my pleasure. If there are any questions, I see that we have still a few minutes to go. I am yours.
Thank you so much, dear participants. If you have any questions, you can write it or in a chart or in a Q&A box. So Julia still could answer that. Sometimes we have some delay between people write and we get these questions. So if we will get it a little bit later, we will send it for you for sure, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. It's not a problem at all. And it's interesting. I have spent 2 days in the training devoted to agile practices. And for those who know the programs we deliver now, it's agility. And this is very interesting. Again, it's mentality and English, like things like agile or agility or empowerment. They're English culture, English speaking world, and they're very difficult to translate into Russian with one word. It's the whole concept you need to translate. And sometimes the connotation is different. For example, when we are talking about agile, how we translate, it's fast. No, it's not fast. It's flexible. Yes, it's flexible. It's fast and flexible. But how we translate it into Russian? And we start to getting the words like прыткий, шустрый, проворный. And they have some, shades of meaning, the connotation, which is not very nice and which is not very much business-like. But in English, this is a business culture. And when your client says, oh, I want to be agile, or I want to develop my agility qualities, for him, it's very reasonable thing. But in Russian, you start fitting it into your mindset, into your understanding of world picture. And it's very important that the world picture is different, and when you shift to another language, you like you change your appearance, you become like avatar. you really get into another world with another meanings. Yes, it looks like similar, but it is not very equivalent. And that's why translating and interpreting are two different things. When I was in the university, first diploma I got, it was translators, and the second one, it was interpreter consultant. And the reason being is that when you are trying to transmit the meaning, Peter Britzo was saying about meaning, yeah, when you're transmitting the meaning, not the words like that, but meaning, and you always need the context. And the context is in your head, and context is in your client's head, and it is all background that we have. Some innocent word can hurt, because in his context he was already hurt by this word. Or some word can empower and unleash his wings, but for you it's just nothing, it's just a word. So when you are attentive to this flow of energy, then you can be a powerful coach. But your attention is not on words, but on how these words relate to the particular context, particular situation of the client. And this requires attention. This requires you being connected with the situation, with the client, and with the being of yourself and being of your client. And it is pretty slow in the very beginning. You cannot run fast there without practice. You need to train yourself, and first you start with yourself.
Thank you so much. We also have a question about your contacts. If it is possible to get your contacts, Evgenia asked.
Yes, for sure. For sure, I can add a slide with my contact details, but you can easily find me in Facebook. I have a page where I publish some articles. I always search for something interesting, so you can subscribe to my Facebook, and you can easily find me just in Google or in Yandex. Find Julia Choukhno, Novatera Coaching. And I usually answer the messages, but sometimes slow, because when I'm with clients or when I'm at trainings, then I park it until I can give full attention to the people.
Thank you so much. We get just 2 minutes, but still we have one question. What do you do for your own continuous learning, and how do you ensure your own personal and coaching agility? What do you do for your conscious training and development?
Well, my practice is that, first of all, I read, and you can see, I can show you, for example, I'm reading not only coaching things, but things wider, and I get deep. I'm modeling big models. I'm writing articles, and conferences are part of this. I participate in the conferences, and one of the things I love is I'm translating the international speakers, like David Clutterbuck. I was translating him and also training with him. So for me to be the voice of those people who are interesting for me, that's the best learning, and it gets deep. I don't know, sometimes I cannot say what they say, but I know that it's already rooted in my body. So this is the best thing. And I just get curious. I let myself surf in the internet, and I book special time for myself to communicate with people, with partners. I know that it is important part of my practice.
Magic advice. Thank you so much for that. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much. It was a pleasure to listen to you, and many thanks from our chart.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you and share. And please feel free to contact me.
Thank you.